let's have a review on the basics of networking. Now, the simplest form of network or network connectivity is as simple as two PCs connecting directly to each other. Okay, this is also known as point-to-point connectivity. So what I'm gonna do is I will add two PCs directly connected to each other. Okay, so let's call this PCA and PCB. And here's what I'm gonna do. I will just simply connect them directly. Okay, this is already considered a network. As simple as that. Now take note, network has many layers. We call this OSI layer, okay, or OSI model. Now, the layer 1, the lowest layer, is what we call the physical layer. So I'm gonna add here, I'm gonna add L1, stands for layer 1, and I will specify this is a physical layer. And when we say physical layer, these are most of the time hardware, okay, or should I say all the time. We're gonna talk about that later in a bit. The physical layer, this consists of the actual wire or the actual cable connected to PCA and PCB. Okay, what else? There are many others. Okay, but the simplest is the cable or the wire. Okay, I can also include the port. Okay, and physical interfaces. Okay, but the physical interface can be a little complicated. We're gonna talk about more into that in a bit. Now, the transmission unit in layer 1 is what we call the binary. These are the ones and zeros. Okay, ones and zeros. This is called binary. All right. Now, in order for these two PCs to communicate to each other, they need an identifier, and we have two identifiers, or we also call this addresses. One is the MAC address, okay, and the other is an IP address. So I'm gonna add here MAC and IP. Now, MAC address consists of two parts. The first part, which consists of 3 bytes, this is what we call the OUI, or the Organization Unique Identifier. Here's the format of the MAC address. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign a value, okay, and sometimes I call this group. This consists of a byte, which is 8 bits. For a hexadecimal value, it consists of 4 bits, okay, if you combine them, so that is 8 bits or 1 byte. Okay, so the first 3 bytes, or the first 3 groups, these are what we call the OUI. So I will just first assign a value. So I'm going to use 00B5F. So this is what we call the OUI. OUI. Again, OUI stands for Organization Unique Identifier. Now, maybe you're thinking, what is OUI? Okay, so aside from the first 3 bytes of a MAC address, this is also used to identify the manufacturer or the vendor's network interface card. So meaning, this is based on vendor, okay? We're gonna look at what vendor this value is later. So this is OUI. Think of this as the vendor. And the last part, or the other half, this is what we call the unique identifier, the last 3 bytes. So this identifier, it can be anything. It can be as simple as 00, 01, or 02. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't represent anything. But take note, this last 3 bytes of the MAC address, these are assigned by the vendor or the manufacturer, okay? And this is the representation of a unique identifier, okay? And this can be assigned to a network interface card or the device itself. So I will add here identifier, or the unique identifier. Right, so that is the MAC address. Consider MAC address as your hardware address, meaning you don't really configure your MAC address. Okay, this is automatically assigned when you purchase a network interface card or if you purchase your device. So MAC address is already burned into that interface card. Now, for the IP address, this is considered as the logical address, and it consists of 4 bytes or 4 octets. We're gonna talk about more IP addressing later, but this is the format: 192.168.1.1. Okay, and this should be unique, at least in the network. 192.168. Then I'm gonna add 1.2. And for the MAC address, I will assign 0005, 56, and 000001. Okay. Now let's move to the next layer, layer 2, also known as the data link layer. Now I'm gonna add here layer 2 data link. Now the data link layer, this is the protocol that is used to transmit our traffic, and we use frames for this. Okay, and we use protocols as well. Under layer 2 data link, the most popular protocols or protocol we use is Ethernet. Actually, this is the only protocol that is used in many data centers and network. And maybe you're thinking, what are the other protocols? Well, there are legacy protocols such as AppleTalk, Token Ring, and many others. But consider this legacy, meaning no one is using it anymore. Okay, there are no devices specific to those layer 2 protocols. Most of the time, or I believe 99.99% of the time, you will see Ethernet protocols under layer 2. Okay, now let's go back to the cards. Okay, there is a card that is assigned to our PCs. Okay, this is what we call the NIC, or the network interface card, and it looks like this. If you're a hardware guy, you've probably seen this. Okay, it can be PCI based, it can be mezzanine card as well, and you have the specific port. Okay, so this is the port. This is where you connect your cable. Okay, this is where you connect your cable. Now, maybe you're thinking, is this layer 1 or layer 2? Now, it's actually not very simple, because network interface card is a combination of 2 layers. If you're thinking about the physical parts of the NIC, or the network interface card, these are layer 1. Okay, I'm gonna add here layer 1. Now, there is also part where they burned the MAC address. Okay, burned in MAC address. This is the part where NIC is functioning as layer 2. So if we're talking about MAC address that is burned into the NIC, that is all layer 2. If we're talking about hardware, that is all layer 1.